Oh boy, well the summer is full of fun times, hanging out by the pool, spending time outdoors, or whatever makes your family happy.
Absolutely, but to make sure that your time stays tragedy-free, Northwest Fire Department Battalion Chief Ryder Hartley is here with some very important summer safety tips. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Tina, Alex, thanks for having me. I've got three things that I really want to talk about today really quick. There's stuff that comes along with Tucson most any time of year kind of, but certainly in the summertime. So what say we get started?
Yes, I know we're going to be covering snakes, dehydration, and water safety.
Yes.
Which in one way or another I think is going to affect someone somewhere.
Absolutely, especially Tucson, Arizona in general, and lots of people around the country in the summertime.
Yes. Now, I want to start with snake safety. Do I want to start there?
Absolutely want to start with snake safety.
Okay.
Hesitantly.
Yes, hesitantly. You've got a duffel bag, which makes me a little nervous. But when we're talking about snake safety, of course, if we do happen to find one maybe in our yard or, you know, something like that, is that something where we should turn to the fire department if we feel like there's a situation?
Yeah, generally we like to say if there is a snake that's inside a structure in your garage, in your house, or in a walled yard, then that's obviously a situation that you want somebody to come and take care of. We come and we have our trusty snake pole and pick up the snake, and we'll move the snake. Usually if we have to take it a ways away, we'll put it in a big metal box and we'll take it out to the nearest open area desert where we can safely release the snake. The idea is to not harm them, but also make sure that we don't have a conflict with the people in the area. So house, yard, playground, something like that. If they're out in the desert and you're out hiking, then obviously the simplest thing to do is just avoid them, and they'll try and avoid you, and we're all happy that way.
Right, and I know sometimes it's really hard to tell if one is dangerous or one is not. So what's a simple tip for people to actually look at it and say, well, I should avoid that one?
Well, not getting too close to any of them unless you really have some education in it is probably the best thing. In general, the snakes around here are the ones that like to tell you, hey, I'm dangerous, don't come near me, I might bite you, and they have a rattle on them. But there are some rattlesnakes that don't grow rattles, that's the way things work sometimes in nature. And there are some snakes that like to pretend they're rattlesnakes as a defense against other predators. So in general, the best thing to do is if you don't have some kind of training or education with snakes is leave them alone. Again, if they're in your house, in your yard, at the playground, something like that, give us a call. We'll come and make sure that they get moved to an area that's safe for them and keep people safe as well.
Yeah, so it's good to know we have somebody on our side if we run into that situation. Now, something that is kind of like a hit or miss that may or may not happen to us, but dehydration, that is something a lot more common, whether, you know, the kids are out for football practice or, you know, some kind of a soccer practice, or we're hiking, or you don't even realize you kind of need that water. You're just out thinking a day for fun. What's a good tip when we're talking about preventing getting to that dehydration point?
Well, Tina, you just hit on something that's really important. A lot of people don't realize when they're getting dehydrated. They like to say if you're feeling thirsty, it's probably already at the point where you're starting to get a little dehydrated. And that's where my duffel bag comes in.
Okay, I'm so glad that you're pulling out of the duffel bag. I was like
poking it before we went.
We take dehydration very seriously in the fire service. This is an actual publication that's specifically for the fire service that's all about rehabilitation and monitoring people's vitals and their health when we're on scene working, because of course we get very hot and we work very hard while we're doing that. Just put that up there. We have different ways that we can get our fluid intake in, and I've got a couple of different products here. Not really advertising anything, but just showing folks what's available to them. Water, of course, is very easy and simple and probably the best thing to turn to. You want to be drinking. There's a lot of different information, but in general, adults probably around 2 liters a day, and adolescents and kids probably a liter, a little less if they're younger than that. The key is when we're active, and this is, most of the research is going to agree with this, is you want small amounts but on regular intervals. So anywhere between, say, 4 and 8 or 10 ounces every 10 or 15 minutes when we're active. And something people don't realize is when they're in a pool, because they feel like they're cool, they're actually still losing water sweating, especially if you're playing a lot and you're running around having a lot of fun. So you still need to keep drinking in order to stay hydrated.
Right, and people may not know you also lose it through your breath.
Yes.
And what I like to do with some of these sweeter drinks is I actually dilute them by half. That makes them a little easier to drink, because usually a lot of sugar, I find, for me at least, dehydrates me. And I think people just have to know what gets them, right?
Well, I'm actually gonna bring that up, and I'm glad you did. The information, all the science says that these companies have actually put a huge amount of research into the product that they're putting out on the shelf, and the solution that comes in the bottle is actually the appropriate amount to make it work well for your body. If you dilute it, you can actually run into a situation where you aren't actually absorbing as well. So the general information that's out there is to use those in conjunction with the water. So what you might do is like a 2-to-1 amount. So if you drink a bottle of water, then switch to drinking one of your supplement waters and drink a half a bottle of that next as you're drinking your fluids, and then drink another bottle of water and then another half a bottle of that. So kind of a 2-to-1, but don't actually dilute one of these with water itself, because then you don't get the absorption that it's designed to give you.
That's really good to know.
Yeah, these are very good tips for us, and I love, like you said, even if you're not feeling like you're thirsty, remember to pull the kids, aside, give them the water, periodically, even if they're not like, Mom, I'm thirsty, do it anyways.
Yeah, keep those drinks available, keep hydrated. And another thing that I like to throw in there for the summertime is don't forget the four-legged family members too. Because it gets hot on them too. Need to make sure that they have shade to get into, and that if we're going somewhere and we're taking them hiking with us, for example, bring along plenty of water for everybody.
Absolutely, Chief. Thank you so much for coming on with us today and sharing these tips.
Yes.
I'm so happy that's what was in your bag.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Did we want to run through pool safety really quick?
Yeah, could you leave us with one good tip?
Best tip for pool safety is to remember it's ABC, adult supervision, barriers, and that would be a gate, self-locking gate, and a fence around the pool. And C is learn CPR. And I think the adult supervision is absolutely the most important part of all that. And the reason I have a whistle is it's a good thing that's a reminder that you can pass on to each person, so that person is actually accepting that responsibility to stay by the pool and watch and make sure those kids are doing all right.
Great tip.
you got it. You heard him, guys. And to find out more about Northwest Fire, call 887-1010 or visit them online at northwestfire.org.